Hi, and welcome to the Unknown Regions podcast. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Kris.
And today we're talking about this podcast.
So, Taylor, do you want to explain a little bit of what this podcast is going to be?
Well, the Unknown Regions podcast, from what I know at this moment in time, is going to discuss pop culture, fun things like Star Wars, Marvel, video games, TV shows, movies, all those kinds of things. As a avid consumer of these pop culture things, I'm excited to get into it and just share my love for all things nerdy.
Yeah, definitely. I'm in the same boat with you. Almost, I would say obsessed with Marvel and Star Wars and just that nerdy universe. It's a fun way to just escape like daily life and stuff like that, when you need to, because everyone needs some form of escape every once in a while, and it's fun to explore these universes that people have created. They're all so different yet similar, and they all kind of are a way for us to all get together and really enjoy something. So yeah, maybe we can go over exactly what's gonna happen in each episode, if you want to kind of go over that.
Sure. So we were thinking to start off, we would do some deep dives into The Bad Batch.
Yeah.
That we're both excited. That's coming out here on May 4th with a review probably coming out a few days after that. That way we could watch it, digest it, maybe watch it a second time, come with notes and get ready to do this. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Spoilers will be in those. Will context that and put that in the beginning of each episode that we go. When we talk about spoilers, maybe even WandaVision. Then we'll also talk about maybe books we're reading. There's the High Republic book that I know that me and you have got into recently.
The Light of the Jedi, for sure. Yeah.
Yep, and that'll be really fun. Also, to preface, just so that we can get it out of the way, we're brothers, and we just wanted to do this for some fun. Sound equipment is going to be a little dodgy here at the beginning as we figure this out.
For sure.
And we will get it figured out as we go. We're just so excited to get all of this stuff that we talk about with each other out of our heads onto something physical, which is more digital than physical.
Yeah. More audio based. Yeah, I definitely need to get some of this knowledge I have of like Star Wars and Marvel. It's not as extensive as some people in, the nerdverse, I would say, but it is there. I do know a good amount of things, and sometimes it's good to just get it out. Have someone to talk to, yeah. Taylor and I, we both definitely got into gaming when we were kids, and our parents showed us Star Wars, obviously, like good parents should. Introduced us into that, and kind of, I'd say Iron Man was the movie that really threw me into Marvel, because from that point, I was really just a big Batman fan, and, this is kind of just like my explanation of like how I got into that nerdverse. But yeah, so Iron Man really threw me into the Marvel universe, and from there I've been reading comic books. Would go to the comic book store, get comics there, and yeah, start from there, and it was enjoyable. What about you?
Yeah, I've been into everything nerdy since I first got into movies and video games when I was younger, and it's just grown over the years. I mean, comic books, other podcasts of people talking about this same stuff is things that I consume on a daily basis. But yeah, the different forms of mediums that we can get into on these things, whether it be TV and movies where it's more of a visual thing, or you got the novels where you can read it, then you got even audiobooks that you can consume that way. So then there's the audio portion. There is video games, which is more a little hands-on. Of course, all these things are just so amazing, and there's something for everybody. We just hope that if you do end up listening to this, you have fun and hopefully can hear some things that you maybe resonated with or maybe you didn't think of. We aren't experts, but we definitely enjoy what we consume, and we definitely want to share that with others, and that is mainly what this podcast is going to be about, getting into all these shows that we end up watching, and we talk to each other over texting or something when we're at work, and then we're thinking, man, we should do a podcast where we could just talk about this, and then we can save all of these conversations that we have over text and instead talk about it with each other, and then in turn to anybody else that ends up listening. Yeah, this form of being able to get it off our chest will be something really nice and exciting, and also scary and terrifying, because then we got to start editing, and then we got to start uploading it to different places, and at this present moment we don't know what that's going to be. But yeah, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say this is all new for us. Obviously, you have more experience uploading things like YouTube and whatnot, doing all that, but this is all new to me. So this audio and editing and everything like that. I obviously love listening to podcasts. I have a ton of nerdy podcasts that I listen to, YouTube channels that I watch. So it kind of just like motivated me to be like, hey, what if I just talked about some of the stuff I love? Because I'm listening to these people and I'm like, hey, that's all they're doing. They're just talking about these different shows and characters and stuff that they like and love. And, you know, I have that same passion. And it's like good to get to voice that sometimes. It's good to nerd out a bit, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. As a person that has uploaded to YouTube a few times, there's something really nice about sharing what you're doing. Also, it's nice it feels like you've completed something. So with this podcast, and I know there's a big stigma, everybody has podcasts.
Oh, for sure.
And
that's true.
With us, I think mainly the idea is we're just two brothers that really like nerdy stuff and we want to talk about them. And so we're going to do that and we're going to have fun doing it. Yeah. And yeah, I hope to see a bunch of you on the next Unknown Regions podcast. We will eventually have some way of communication between people that listen and us.
And maybe we could get a Discord or something, you know, some sort of server.
Sure.
We can all express this stuff. Yeah, definitely.
And we'll eventually maybe even have an email or maybe a Twitter account or something just to like be able to have people comment to us. I was also thinking of maybe even just uploading this to YouTube just so that we have some way of getting some sort of, I know that's more of a visual thing, but you know, on YouTube you can get a lot of comments very easily. Whereas on Spotify and stuff, it's a little harder to get comments through, obviously. Yeah, so excited about this, nervous about this. Yeah, so to go over everything that we've talked about, we're two brothers, Taylor and Kris, and we are going to be talking about Star Wars. To start off this, we're probably going to go ahead and review and do some little breakdowns and conversations with each other about the episodes that come out each week, starting on May 4th.
And that is the Bad Batch.
That is the Bad Batch. Yep, we're really excited about this. The next installment of the animated Star Wars shows.
Clone Force 99. Here we go.
Yep. Definitely excited about that. So we will come with notes and be prepared to talk with each other about what we enjoyed in the episode and
questions we have.
Yep, questions we have going forward with the show, what we'd like to see, and see if we can come up with some theories of what might come through. I don't know if it's going to be that kind of show, but hey, maybe. You never know. Then eventually, if we get communication lines sent up, if you guys had any questions with our everyday knowledge, slightly above everyday knowledge of certain topics, we would be glad to answer it. Yeah, do you have anything else to add?
No, yeah. So kind of with this first episode, we did want to discuss what the podcast was going to be, but maybe we can talk a little bit more about like different superheroes, maybe movies that we like. And go into more
video games we've played, stuff like that.
Because we kind of just want to do that first part.
Sure.
That first part should just be what the podcast is going to be. Our introduction, obviously, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about our individual like preferences in terms of nerd culture and stuff.
Yeah. Well, start off this section. We're just going to continue on. That was our general overview of what this podcast, The Unknown Regions, is going to be about. And now we're going to kind of go into a section here talking about some superheroes we like, maybe even some Jedi that we really like, video games that we've played, maybe related to that, or even not related to that, just stuff that we're into right now. And just kind of getting more into what we enjoy to talk about. How about you start off with some superheroes that are your favorite in Marvel?
That way we can get definitely. I obviously have comic book preferences in terms of superheroes, and also I have the MCU preference. Right now, from what I've seen in the MCU, I'm definitely really liking the story arc that they have for Thor. And Thor's been like a favorite character of mine since I saw his first movie way back when. You know, there's something, you know, about the God of Thunder or whatever. You know, he's entertaining. He's not the brightest, you know, but he means well, and it's just entertaining to watch. I think his arc though throughout those first three, you know, movies. The Thor movies, and then into Infinity War and Endgame and whatnot, and now he's gonna have his Thor Love and Thunder, and that's gonna be really interesting. I very much enjoyed seeing them humanize him, seeing him go from this guy that just wants to be king to like maybe, you know, he's not ready to be king yet, and going through that, and to the point where it's like he's ready to be king, but he fails his people, and half of them die. Asgard gets destroyed. He fails at defeating Thanos, and then half of the entire universe gets snapped from existence, and he just sinks into depression and things like that. A very a human response. Him gaining weight and everything, going into depression. So that's kind of cool for them to explore that, because I think the comic books do a good job at talking about Thor, but sometimes the movies can do that in a different sense. So yeah, definitely Thor in the MCU is my favorite at this point.
For the MCU, so my favorite superhero in the MCU is definitely got to be Captain America. Yeah, the first Avenger. I like how they are moving his character into the future with this announcement now of Captain America 4. I will kind of keep it a little vague to that and let people guess, just because there might be some spoilers for some people. Overall, Steve Rogers, Captain America, he is one of my favorite characters. His love for the country and everything amplified by that super serum, and then his ultimate sacrifice over and over again for everybody is just super awesome. Sad to see at the end of Endgame him kind of finishing his story, because of course you'd love to see more, but definitely excited with a lot of the other characters coming out into this new phase. But definitely for the first decade of Marvel Cinematic Universe, Steve Rogers exemplified sacrifice and loyalty and strength against every odds that he came up against, whether it been the Nazis or the US government or Thanos himself, being just a measly super soldier compared to a Titan that had literally god powers. And he held him for just a few seconds. I know in the comics it was a little different, but
comics is, neck snap, game over.
but for sure, definitely MCU. Steve Rogers is awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with a lot of the other characters. So as for comics, do you have a favorite superhero?
Comic book universe, oh man, that's a tough one. For sure, I gotta stick with Spider-Man. Not just Peter Parker. Obviously, Peter Parker is, he's Spider-Man. He's the original Spider-Man. He's fantastic, I love how relatable he is as a character. Obviously, not in terms of Spider-Man powers, but in terms of being, someone that just wants to do the right thing. He's just a kid who's trying to be in high school, is trying to do all these different things. But I think once I saw Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, that movie kind of shot me in the direction of Spider-Man Miles Morales. I think, he really took up that mantle as Spider-Man in his own universe, in the Ultimate Universe. And that was the comic done by Brian Michael Bendis. That was a really good series showing his origin, getting his powers, finding out his uncle is the Prowler, and a criminal. And then in a fight they have, his uncle dies. So there's his motivation and everything. His uncle is saying, you're just like me, you're a criminal, basically motivating Miles to just want to be a good person, I think even in that comic book series, he does eventually meet Peter Parker, and even Peter Parker admits, Miles Morales is Spider-Man, and Peter Parker goes off to kind of figure out his own destiny in that Ultimate Universe. That is, obviously in the main timeline Marvel Universe, it's a different story, when those all collide back together. But yeah, Miles Morales for sure. He's definitely my favorite comic book character.
Awesome. Well, mine is a little bit on the underrated side, and Kris is shaking his head at me right now. My favorite comic book hero, just because it's a little bit on the niche side and then out of the ordinary, is Wonder Man with Marvel Comics. I think he was first introduced in Avengers number 9. I'm not good with comic book writers and stencilers and anything like that, but I just know that it was Avengers number 9, and Wonder Man was set up to be actually an enemy of the Avengers, and he was created by Baron Zemo with some ionic powers. Simon Williams is the alias of Wonder Man, and he was also in the tech industry, but Stark took off and Williams didn't. And so he ended up resenting Iron Man, and that is why when Baron Zemo convinced him to be his enemy to the Avengers, he agreed. And then while being a part of the Avengers, they really enjoyed him, and he ended up sacrificing himself for the Avengers. And then later in the comics, that ended up, altering some things. And his mind was actually put into Vision. So Vision was actually created out of the mind of Simon Williams. And then there was a relationship with Wonder Man and Scarlet Witch. And then that turned into Vision and Scarlet Witch. And then eventually Simon Williams was brought back to life a bunch of times. And then he had his own comic book stretch in the 90s. And that is a really good run. Looking at the origins of the West Coast Avengers, which is a totally different one. And he is a kind of crazy actor / superhero where he is pretty much all energy, uses his powers mostly for good. There was obviously the times where he used them for bad. But he is very powerful and had his own interesting things he had to go against in different wars. Can't remember them exactly because I'm not exactly read up on them. But yeah, definitely Wonder Man. He's an exciting superhero that I hope will eventually be added to the MCU, but I'm not holding my breath. He was already introduced in a deleted scene in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I believe.
Right. I remember that.
Nathan Fillion was Simon Williams on a poster outside of like a broken down theater. And that was pretty much all there was to him. So I don't know if Nathan Fillion would be playing him. But I think that if they found the right actor and they found the right way to introduce him, maybe around the area of what eventually Monica Rambeau is going to be dealing with, because her powers of energy forms and stuff would be good to introduce with him as well, being ionic energy. Baron Zemo's still around, and with his popularity after Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there's definitely some room for possible avenues there. So still holding out hope, but for comic books, that's my favorite. Yeah. Well, we're moving in now to a little bit of a Star Wars section where we're going to talk about at least a couple of our favorite characters that we've seen throughout the years.
Characters, movies, TV shows.
Definitely. So how about you go ahead, Chris?
Yeah, obviously been a big Star Wars fan for a long time. I've read comic books, just normal books, novels, everything regarding Star Wars. I really enjoy that universe. It's something special that George Lucas created. And I gotta say, in terms of my favorite character, I really love Obi-Wan's story. I love that he's kind of been, at first, kind of a testy Padawan, with Qui-Gon Jinn, kind of, not quite the man he is at, the end of his journey. But, it's interesting to see where he starts, in Phantom Menace. Regardless of how you feel about those prequel movies, I've definitely had a change of heart on them as I've grown up. After hearing Dave Filoni talk about the prequels, it kind of gives me a different picture on them and a different understanding. But yeah, Obi-Wan for sure is my favorite character. He's the pinnacle of what a Jedi should be. He always does the right thing. He's Obi-Wan. I obviously, in terms of favorite movies, I gotta say Empire Strikes Back. I know everybody loves Empire Strikes Back. But yeah, that one's just a classic. Nothing like seeing your heroes losing to really get you on the edge of your seat.
Nice. So for me, I have a few different ones, but definitely the one that sticks out the most for me, and he didn't get much screen time, but that was Obi-Wan's master, Qui-Gon Jinn. I know canonically Grey Jedi don't exist, but he's the closest that we'll ever get for really maintaining the Force itself over all else. He could care less about the Republic. He could care less about the Jedi Order. It was all about the Force to him, and it was all about bringing balance. And that is really what pushed him to bringing Anakin around. And with that, definitely a short-lived character as far as the movies go, but impact definitely lasted a long time with him teaching Yoda and Obi-Wan And practically everyone past then that learned the Force Ghost technique, being able to live beyond the grave. He, of course, couldn't manifest himself physically like Yoda or Obi-Wan could, but his presence alone gave them the knowledge to learn how to do that. Just his trust in the Force really was awesome, and his trust in who he had around him, whether it be Obi-Wan or Anakin himself. Even though he didn't really get to see exactly firsthand, he got to feel it in the Force, what Anakin did through that transformation into Darth Vader. But yeah, definitely my favorite Jedi would be Qui-Gon Jinn. Plenty of other characters that I really enjoy, but I'll leave it at that one.
What about a movie? Favorite Star Wars movie? I know that's a tough selection, but...
Favorite movie? Well, because it's the only one that Qui-Gon is in, I always like to say The Phantom Menace.
Interesting.
A lot of people end up not agreeing, but I do want to say that I think if you narrowed down all the movies, the worst one would definitely have to be Attack of the Clones prequels, at least.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously a lot of conjecture of what the worst one is since the sequels. And so, in that regard, Phantom Menace, although it has Jar Jar Binks, I would still say edges above what maybe The Last Jedi or The Rise of Skywalker ended up doing.
Edge out Rise of Skywalker in terms of overall ratings.
Oh, well, hey, there we go.
So, Phantom Menace did beat Rise of Skywalker. So, technically, if you want to go based on ratings, Rise of Skywalker is considered the worst
Wow.
Star Wars movie.
And I think that has a lot to do with just heated fans and, honestly,
Definitely.
Not trying to twist anybody's hands or anything. I like Star Wars. I'm going to talk about Star Wars. I don't care about people hating on Star Wars or loving Star Wars unconditionally. I just enjoy it. So,
yeah.
And I know you do too. So we're just going to kind of talk about it, and we don't need any flame or anything with us talking about it.
Neither of us is just strictly original trilogy fanboys. We love Star Wars for what it is and all the different stories that people bring to it. And regardless of what you feel about the sequels, it is, unfortunately, say you hate it, you love it, it's a part of the Star Wars universe. And, there are some things that happened in that universe or those movies that are going to be in, sequels and, the High Republic that's going to, eventually start coming out. And, we know they have books and comics and stuff. But when they start making movies and TV shows. But
yeah, definitely love all things nerdy. So let's pivot a little bit into a more of a miscellaneous category right now of our podcast, where we kind of just talk about video games we're into, and maybe eventually we'll do a little bit of dives and teach each other about things that we're really into video game wise or other franchise wise that isn't Star Wars or Marvel, since we both have a decent foothold there, and there's so much more that's out there besides those two, and we'll definitely go into those every once in a while. But what are some things you're into right now?
So I would say I'm not playing a ton of video games at the moment. I've always definitely enjoyed playing video games. It's always been something I've done since I was a kid. Started playing, Mario Kart, Double Dash on the GameCube, Need for Speed Underground, I like those racing games, but I'd say my ultimate favorite game has got to be Halo and just that universe. I've read books and comic books on it. I've played, obviously, every game. I'm not an amazing Halo player, but I definitely consider myself to be pretty good. Definitely love the Halo universe and the games that come with that. There's something about Master Chief and, his arc with Cortana and whatnot. Obviously, 4 and 5 getting a little dicey, but we'll see how Halo Infinite turns out when it eventually does come out. But yeah, Halo for sure. Obviously, played World of Warcraft a ton, sank many hours into that. Still play it every once in a while. But yeah, not big into just playing a ton of games right now. But I still will pick up a game and play a few hours here and there.
Yeah. Me, on the other hand, most of my free time, whether it can be in anything is usually in video games. I definitely prefer when I'm hanging out with friends and playing video games rather than by myself, but it is overall fun thing for me to get into right now. The game that I'm most into right now is League of Legends, and it is a massive game with a huge following. I'm sure everybody listening has at least heard of it at one point or another. There are plenty other games that I'm really into, but Riot and their games of League of Legends and whatnot, their universe, again, we're talking about universes here, like Star Wars universe, Marvel. The League of Legends universe is very fleshed out, with each character having such depth and having it all match into each of these different areas of the game. Although you don't get to see that played out in the actual game of League of Legends, which is just a 5-on-5 battle arena, you got so many stories written about them, and their awesome website that shows the map and all the stories wrapped into all these characters. You can sit there and read for hours and all your favorite characters. Then with their announcement of an MMO, kind of like World of Warcraft coming out in the future that they're starting to develop, I'm really excited to get more into the world there, because I think about that. MMOs are the best way to get hands-on with a franchise. And speaking of MMOs, I don't play it as often anymore, but Star Wars, The Old Republic, I was very into that, and that was a very fun MMO experience, getting to see a different time of Star Wars that is not canonically accurate with what Star Wars is now, but still is Jedis and Sith and bounty hunters and smugglers and all that stuff, and you get to just play as that and go through different systems and different galaxies, fighting different things and finding different things and experiencing the world that is, or the universe that is Star Wars. So I'm excited for this League of Legends one coming out, and that is what I'm into right now. Doesn't mean I'll be into it forever, but that is just one of them that I'll talk about right now. And so yeah, going over this inaugural episode of the Unknown Regions podcast, we are excited to get into the Bad Batch, which will be coming out on May 4th, and expanding into more areas of Star Wars and Marvel as they come out. I'm sure once Loki comes out, we'll also do breakdowns on that as well. We'll do book reviews when we finish, whether they be maybe comic book runs or they might be novels like the High Republic, Light of the Jedi one that we're reading right now. And then we'll get into other things as we see fit. We will definitely be talking a little bit about what we're going to be going into, usually hopefully in advance, just to make sure that we have an outline planned and we don't go into anything blind. But I hope you enjoyed listening and kind of figuring out, as we figure it all out, this podcast. Make sure to rate it and like it if that is a possibility on any of these websites. And
it's possible.
Yeah, and if there's a way to comment and you have any comments or suggestions or anything, let us know. As always, in the Unknown Regions, I'm Taylor.
I'm Kris.
And we'll see you next time.